cabo en esta reunión. Padre, bendecimos su nombre, bendecimos las autoridades que estamos en este lugar y todo el pueblo que está en este lugar. Tu nombre sea exaltado, Dios mío. Ayúdanos, Padre, poder tomar decisiones, Señor, en esta reunión, y todo lo que se va a hablar sea con sabiduría, con prudencia, Dios mío. Padre, gracias, te amamos y te bendecimos. Ponemos este tiempo en tus manos y el pueblo dice amén. Amén. Muchas gracias. Bendiciones.
So, on behalf of the Department of Health and Social Services and the City of Plainfield, I want to thank everyone who made it out here tonight. This is one of the most pivotal topics that's impacting our city right now, not just the nation, but particularly the City of Plainfield. And hopefully the information that you will get tonight, you'll be able to take out and share. The goal is to take information back and share it with the people who are important to you or in your world or who are in your environment. That is the whole goal of tonight. I want to acknowledge our members of the City Council who are here. We have Council President. You want to start? Oh, okay. Well, we have Council President, we have Councilman Charles Gray, Councilman Robert Graham, and Councilman Richard White, as well as Council President Julian Cherry, who are all present today. Huh? Oh, I didn't see back there. Councilman Terry Briggs is here as well, and we want to thank the council for all showing up and supporting us in all the things that we do. It is important, and that shows how the city is connected and we are one. I also want to thank the directors who are present, Director Jasper Hutt, Director Fields, Zoning Fields, Abby Levinson, our BA, Director James Abbey, Director of Police. I think I got everyone, right? Okay. So tonight's goal is to provide clear, accurate information and connect our community to trusted resources. We recognize this is a sensitive topic, and we appreciate everyone who has taken the time to be here. At this time, it is my pleasure to turn this forum over to Mayor Adrian O'Mac, who will moderate and guide us through the conversations, who will pose the questions to the attorneys. There are 3 attorneys present. They will take opportunity to really introduce the work that they do, and then that will be followed by questions. As a timekeeper, we need to be out here by 9:30. So just recognize the time, and I think the attorneys are comfortable saying they can give their information afterwards so that you can have their contact information. Right. So we are ready to go. Mayor Matt.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I want to echo the appreciation for everyone who helped bring this together, and for each of you who took the time to attend. In a community like ours, it is important that we create spaces where people can receive clear information, ask questions, and feel supported. We understand that not everyone who needs this information is able to be here this evening. Some are working, caring for family, or may not feel comfortable attending in person. That is why this conversation extends beyond this room. Our goal this evening is to provide useful, accurate information and to ensure that residents know where they can turn for support. We all have been faced with experiences not only in our city, but in our state and nation as a result of that alphabet entity that has been driving fear into our community, especially the immigrant community. And so we believe this is very timely to have this conversation. Our first conversation occurred last year at about the same time at the PPAC, when we brought together leaders from the faith-based community as well as professionals and others to address what at the time appeared to be a challenge that we should keep our eyes open and keep our focus on what we believe would follow. But since then, things have gotten a lot worse. And there's a level of fear in the community that we need to address, and we need to make sure that we have the right people providing the information. And so I'm going to invite our panelists to introduce themselves and to briefly describe their work. And so the individuals that are going to be introduced to you right now will focus on strategies for individuals facing deportation, consideration for business owners facing staffing challenges, immigration law updates affecting the immigrant community. And so with that said, against that backdrop, I invite these individuals to introduce themselves and let us get down to business. Attorney Ingrid Echeverria, Attorney Andrew Wu, and Nydia Marcy. And Attorney
Ryan
Lozano. These are individuals who made themselves available this evening to provide information that we all can have and that we all can share and that we can take back to our homes, our communities, our schools, and to everyone who needs this information. So, let's begin with Attorney Ingrid. Please introduce yourself, followed by Attorney Andrew Wu and Nydia Marcy. And on the panel we have, again, Ryan Lozano.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ingrid Echeverria. I am an immigration attorney and family law attorney. I have been practicing law for the past 20 years. I primarily handle removal defense cases, deportation defense cases, as well as family-based immigration. And today, after my colleagues introduce themselves, I will be discussing the new immigration policies under this administration. Thank you.
And just before the other speaker gets going, I was remiss in not introducing the better half of me, First Lady Amelia. And on the panel also is Maritza Martinez, who has been a fixture in the community and someone who is always there whenever we need her. So welcome, Maritza. I also want to assure everyone that to protect everyone's privacy, we will not be videotaping individuals. We are only recording the information being shared so we can use it as a resource. Please ask those who are taking videos, be mindful of others' privacy. So I just want to be very clear about that. It's good for us to record the audio so it can be shared, but please refrain from recording individuals out of the concerns that we all have and what has brought us here this evening. Next.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to the City of Plainfield. And my name is Andrew Wu. I'm an immigration lawyer here in New Jersey and in Philadelphia. And my practice has very much been involved with community law, immigration law, defending the immigrant community of New Jersey. So, as you can imagine, there's a lot of litigation defense and immigration courts. We do a lot with communication and negotiation with ICE, and among other things.
Hi, my name is Nydia Marcy. I just start off, I am not an attorney. My name is Nydia Marcy, and I'm the director of Make 30 Jersey. We are a grassroots member-led organization with community centers in Elizabeth, Passaic, and Perth Amboy. What is sort of foundational to the organization is we are 7,000 members strong, and we organize predominantly immigrant working class families with the idea that the law only takes you so far, and then we need to fight for new local and state laws to improve the lives of our communities. A lot of the work that we do is focused on know your rights training, not just when interacting with ICE, but as a tenant, as a worker, as a parent, and then using that information of organized people to determine the local and the state campaigns that we move. So for example, there was an effort at the beginning of the year to reopen the Union County Jail as an ICE facility. Members of Make the Road, alongside many members throughout the county, organized to make sure that facility never saw the light of day. Most recently, members of Make the Road New Jersey, in collaboration with Wind of the Spirit and New Labor and many other organizations across the state, organized to pass a package of immigrant protections. Is it helpful for me to say that again in Spanish?
Please.
Okay. So, buenas noches a todos. Yo me llamo Nadia y soy la directora de Se Hace Camino Nueva Jersey. Yo no soy abogada. Sí tenemos un bufete de abogados, pero yo no soy. Nosotros tenemos centros de comunidad en Elizabeth, Passaic y Perth Amboy. Nuestra visión es que organizamos a la familia inmigrante y la clase trabajadora para tratar de encontrar y crear o luchar por leyes locales y locales para mejorar las vidas de nosotros y nuestro estado. Eso se va en forma de hacer reuniones semanalmente en conocer nuestros derechos y después como grupo decidimos cuáles campañas queremos liderar. Por ejemplo, al principio de este año había un esfuerzo para tratar de reabrir el cárcel del condado de Union como un centro de ICE. Entonces nosotros junto con otros miembros de comunidad del condado hemos luchado para que eso nunca se abre. Y más recién, nosotros juntos con muchas otras organizaciones, incluyendo Al Viento del Espíritu, que está presente esta noche, y New Labor y muchos más, hemos organizado para pasar un paquete de leyes que protejan a los inmigrantes. Y I think esta noche ojalá que vamos a tener un chance de revisar esos 3 leyes.
Thank you, Mayor and Maritza, for having us with the Spirit on the panel. My name is Brian Lozano, and during my day job, I am an attorney and specializing in constitutional and civil rights law. But I'm here representing Wind of the Spirit Immigrant Resource Center as a community advocate tonight, and I will be talking a little bit about, community-centered lawyering and know your rights, what we should know, and how we should assert ourselves in these trying times. Buenas noches, mi nombre es Brian Lozano, estoy aquí con la organización Viento del Espíritu, soy un abogado de ley constitucional y de derecho civil en mi trabajo durante el día, pero estoy en la capacidad hoy de representante de la comunidad que aboga por la comunidad con la organización Viento del Espíritu, y va a estar hablando desde la perspectiva de cómo enforzar sus derechos desde centrando la comunidad inmigrante, cómo debemos acercar nuestros derechos durante interacciones con inmigración y qué debemos y qué no debemos hacer. Gracias.
So can one of you, any of you, talk about the strategies for individuals facing deportation?
I'll be happy to start since ladies go first, right? All right. So first, I'd like to make it clear that an ICE arrest does not equal or is not the same as an automatic deportation. Just because ICE makes an arrest, that does not necessarily mean that the individual will be automatically deported. El hecho que al ICE haga un arresto no quiere decir que esa persona que está siendo arrestada va a ser automáticamente deportada. Hay diferentes maneras que la persona se puede defender de un proceso de deportación. All right. So when someone is arrested by ICE, let's just talk a little bit about what happens to this individual. So this person is taken to a detention center. The person is, has to go through a protocol, internal protocol at that detention center. Usually they go through the nurse, right, through the medical checkup, and also, they take all of their belongings, cell phone, clothing, and everything, and then they're placed at a cell, right? So that is exactly when the case can start, when the family actually is learning, oh, my family member, my friend was arrested, and then they start contacting an attorney. I would take a step back, and we need to be proactive. We already know that ICE is, arresting people who shouldn't be arrested, right? People who have work authorization shouldn't be arrested, and guess what? They are still being arrested nowadays under this administration. So we need to be proactive, we need to have a plan, we need to have an action plan. And what I mean by that is, if you know that you have no legal status or you haven't been able to obtain that green card or that employment authorization card, you need to have your documents ready. What kind of documents should you have ready? Passport, make sure that it is not expired. Your birth certificate, okay? Sometimes, we come from our countries and we don't have a copy of that birth certificate. So you should have a copy of that identity document, as well as proof of your bona fides of whatever case you may have. If you have U.S. citizen children, copies of their birth certificates. If they're in school, copies of their school records. If your family member who is a U.S. citizen or a green card holder has a medical issue, make sure to have some proof that this person has a medical issue and that is under some type of medical treatment or medication, things like that. If you have filed taxes, copies of your tax returns, all of that. Anything and everything that talks well about you, letters of recommendations, school letters, all of that should be in a folder, right? Just in case you might need it, just in case you get arrested. Because at the time when someone gets arrested, no one knows, like the children don't know, the wife doesn't know, where's the tax return, where's the birth certificate, oh my God, I don't have a passport. And then if you don't have these basic documents in place, that is more time that you will be spending at a detention center. So let's be proactive, let's have all of these documents in a safe place, in a folder, and you should have at least 2 people in your household or somebody outside your household know where these documents are being kept. Okay, that will save you a lot of time and a lot of frustration if someone gets detained. So básicamente hay ciertos documentos que es importante tener listos y tener guardados en caso de emergencia, especialmente si usted es alguien que no ha podido legalizarse, no tiene documentos o está en riesgo de ser arrestado. Documentos básicos como pasaporte vigente, el acta de nacimiento, copia de sus taxes que ha hecho todos los años, todo lo que hable bien de usted, cartas de recomendación, si usted estudió en este país, esas notas, ese diploma, todo lo que hable bien de usted, tenerlo guardado y no esperar a tener una emergencia cuando alguien ya está detenido. Porque entre más preparado usted esté, menos tiempo va a gastar en un centro de detención. Muy importante. So, let's say that someone is detained. The first thing that the attorney will do is to evaluate whether this individual is eligible to come out of bond, right? So there has been a lot of changes regarding bond, right? For instance, one of the major changes is that if someone had any type of contact at the point of entry at the border, unfortunately, they're no longer eligible to apply for bonds. That means that they can still defend their case, they will not be automatically deported, they can still defend the case, but they will have to be detained, right? Except certain circumstances. But that's the rule right now. If someone presented themselves to the border asking for asylum or they were seeking some type of refugee at the border, trying to apply for some form of relief, or if they were arrested at the point of entry, these individuals unfortunately cannot apply for bonds. They can apply, but they will get denied. So, para personas que han entrado a este país y tuvieron cualquier tipo de contacto a la entrada en la frontera, lamentablemente no son elegibles, excepto en ciertas excepciones, a poder aplicar para una fianza. No es como los buenos tiempos de antes, que cualquier persona podía aplicar para la fianza y salvo que no tuviera un récord grave o criminal tan serio, pues podíamos sacarlo bajo fianza. Pero eso ha cambiado. Bajo esta administración, no todo el mundo es elegible para salir bajo fianza si tuvo contacto a la entrada, en la frontera. Those people who enter on a visa, tourist visa, work visa, student visa, those people are still eligible to apply for bonds. Why? Because they didn't enter through the border, right? So then those that group of people is exempt from this new rule. So if someone gets arrested and they have entered on a visa, it doesn't matter that the visa expired already, they can still apply for a bond and most likely they will get released, okay? Personas que entraron con visa de turista o visa de trabajo o visa de estudiante, son personas que no pasaron por la frontera. Por lo tanto, sí son elegibles para poder salir con una fianza. ¿Por qué? Porque no pasaron por la frontera, right? Okay, now how easy is it nowadays to get a bond? How easy is it to get bonds? Bonds are still being granted, however, the amounts of the bonds are much higher compared to what we had years ago, right? Under the previous administration, a reasonable bond would be $3,500, $5,000, and if the person had been convicted of a crime, like a minor crime, perhaps $10,000, okay, was reasonable back in the day. Now, when I am appearing before the immigration court, some of the bond amounts that the judges are actually requesting or ordering are $50,000, $20,000. Now, to me, this is like a violation of due process because who has $20,000, right? Not everyone does. So I think that curtails the chance of someone, if a family member, being able to be released because they don't have this type of money, they don't have this much money, right? Para personas que, ahora la pregunta es, ¿qué tan fácil es que te den una fianza? Las fianzas las están dando si califica, pero lo que ha cambiado mucho es la cantidad de la fianza. ¿Qué cantidad de fianza te están dando? En los buenos tiempos de la administración anterior, una fianza razonable podría ser $3,500, $5,000, $10,000 si es que alguien tenía un récord criminal, algo más o menos grave, right? Pero ahora en día, personas que ni siquiera tienen un récord criminal, personas que tienen viviendo mucho tiempo en los Estados Unidos, les están dando fianza de $15,000, $20,000, ¿ok? Entonces, es difícil porque no todo el mundo tiene $20,000 para poder salir bajo fianza. ¿Y qué quiere decir esto? Que tienen que defenderse mientras que siguen detenidos. Así que es bastante problemático porque es, en mi opinión, una violación de los derechos, ¿verdad?, de due process. Entonces, el mensaje es, hay que tratar, hay que insistir, y el abogado tiene que estar listo y preparado para argumentar a favor del cliente y decir, señor juez, $15,000 es una cantidad demasiada exagerada para ese cliente que tiene 10 años viviendo en ese país, tiene hijos nacidos acá, ha hecho sus impuestos, no tiene récord criminal y algunas veces los jueces pueden reconsiderar. So as immigration attorneys, as defense counsel, we have to be stern and firm with our positions and always bringing out all the equities that the clients have. In other words, don't accept the $20,000 bond. Say, Your Honor, with all due respect, this person has been in the United States for over 10 years. They have been filing taxes every year. They have no criminal record. Insist, right? Ask the judge to reconsider that amount. Okay, so don't just take it for granted that, oh, if I don't take this amount, the judge would then deny it, right? Because you can always appeal. You can always make an appeal of that determination. And many times, yes, Mayor.
I just want to pivot to.
Yes, go ahead, Mayor. Let's do it, please. I could be here for 5 hours, Mayor.
So, one of the things I also want to remind you of is that to your right and left, we have screens, monitors that are translating from English to Spanish and vice versa. And so you can also focus on those screens for the translation. And so let's go to some of the other questions that I have here. And so to my far... So to my far right, what has changed recently that people should know about? And then after you, the next question will go to Mr. Andrew. No.
Yeah. Me?
Right.
The first question goes to Brian, then it goes to Attorney Wu. So, Brian, yours is, what has changed recently that people should know about? And to Andrew, what are the most important rights individuals should understand right now? Starting with Brian.
Okay, thank you for the question. There are a lot of things that have changed recently, but I'll talk about two major things. And my colleague Ingrid already started on one of them, which was the amount that is being charged for bonds. But I want to talk about, the process of immigration enforcement a little bit and the capacity to bring about immigration enforcement. So first and foremost, I think that what is very obvious, if you pay a little bit of attention to the news, is that there has been a push to increase budget in immigration enforcement. And what this means is that there are more immigration officers, people who can enforce immigration law. Along with that, there's also been a push to expand detention capacity. And if you look throughout the state and throughout the country, really, there's been an expansion of and a push of the current administration to open warehouses that aren't really deemed fit to be immigration detention centers, but they have been purchasing them at above the market price to be able to carry out their agenda of immigration enforcement. So that's a very, very big change, right? And so there have been changes in laws that normally would have, overflowed and the system. But with these current changes, there seems to be a pathway and a plan to be able to not overflow the system with the amount of immigration enforcement they are carrying out, the immigration enforcement machine, right? Whether it's the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration Customs and Enforcement, CBP, and so on. So that's one major change, is their capacity. The other major change is the courts. I would say that in Spanish. Aunque está en las pantallas, lo voy a repetir en español. Uno de los cambios más grandes que hemos visto es la capacidad de enforzar leyes de inmigración. Entonces, si han puesto atención a las noticias, han visto que el presupuesto de estas agencias ha aumentado a billones de dólares. Entonces, ¿qué significa eso? Significa más agentes para enforzar las leyes de inmigración, y también significa que hay más capacidad porque están comprando bodegas a través de todo el país, incluyendo aquí en New Jersey, para poder de alguna manera almacenar inmigrantes en esos centros de detención, que no son centros de detención con las facilidades, ¿no?, de tener un baño para las personas o un espacio adecuado para las personas. Y es más, digo almacenar, y suena un poco grotesco, suena un poco bruto, ¿no?, como lo estoy diciendo, pero es literalmente lo que la administración ha dicho, ¿no? En el noticiero ha dicho que quieren almacenar a inmigrantes como un sistema de Amazon, el sistema de Amazon que manda productos a tu casa, ¿no? Entonces quieren almacenar a personas de esa manera. Entonces ese es el primer cambio, de esa capacidad de forzar inmigración. The second change that has happened is one that is a legal change that previously would have really been something that had maybe been carried out in practice, but in theory would have been repulsive. And that's a recent case, Perdomo, where essentially profiling now has a legal basis. And so under Perdomo, the courts have said that immigration enforcement essentially can profile based off of race. So if you work in a job that's typical of immigrant, if you hang out in places that are typical of immigrant communities, so neighborhoods, if you speak another language, such as Spanish, Tagalog, any other language where there is a known dense immigrant community in the state or in the country, that is a basis to enforce immigration. And this is something that that previously, I think most attorneys had believed was enshrined in law that you could not discriminate on the basis of race, religion, nationality, and so on. And now it's being carried out in a manner where that is not so. El segundo cambio, que es más grande, viene a través de las cortes, ¿no? Y es a través de la doctrina legal. Y esa doctrina legal específica en el caso de Perdomo, y que se sigue litigando ese caso, pero en este momento los jueces han dicho que está bien discriminar basado en la nacionalidad o raza de la persona. Entonces, ese caso en donde antes, cuando cualquier agente, así sea de policía o de inmigración, enforzaba leyes, así sean de la calle o sea, locales o de inmigración, no se podía discriminar basado en cómo se veía alguien o en qué idioma estaban hablando o qué trabajo hacían, ¿no? Y entonces en el último caso que salió, la Corte dijo que ahora hay unos factores que deja discriminar legalmente. Ahora, si una persona está en una área donde se conoce que hay muchos inmigrantes, ese puede ser un factor. Si esa persona habla otro idioma, ese puede ser, que no sea inglés, ese puede ser un factor. Si esa persona trabaja en un sector de trabajo donde hay muchos trabajadores inmigrantes, por ejemplo, construcción, jornaleros, etc., ese también puede ser un factor. Entonces, esos son los dos cambios grandes que yo he visto en ley de inmigración. El primero, como les dije, es la capacidad de enforzar leyes de inmigración, y el segundo es la capacidad ahora de discriminar legalmente cuando están enforzando leyes de inmigración.
Now we go to Attorney Wu.
Thank you, Matt. I'm going to leave the Know Your Rights section to the people who work on that, and I'll focus on it every single day and talk more about my experiences. I've been living and breathing immigration legal defense for the community here in Jersey. I have an office in New Brunswick, but I also have a lot of clients in Central Jersey, including Plainfield. So just to piggyback of what Ingrid was saying, I am seeing, completely agreeing that with the changes of the Trump administration, as well as the courts in the Third Circuit here in New Jersey, as well as beyond, and with the BIA, we've been in a situation where people who used to be able to get bond are not able to get bond. That's not only people who have arrived at the border considered applicants for admission, but even people who have been here for a long time, traditionally even entered, undocumented immigrants who did not come in on a visa but have been here through the border undetected and just have remained here for a long time, including 10, 20 years. They have been affected by a recent court decision called Yavor Hurtado, which was passed in, say, the late summer of last year, which is basically taken the power for judges in immigration to give bonds. It's really just taken it out of the hands of the immigration judge and put it in the hands of Federal Homeland Security. So yeah, everything that I've heard today, I've been experiencing probably much worse, and it does feel bleak there at times. Right now, really important thing to know about that is immigration lawyers have been fighting back been trying to find other ways to help immigrants who otherwise are not eligible for bond under these these legal decisions really moved by this administration. Again, the Hurtado decision is giving no right to bond for anyone who enters without inspection. So knowing your rights, at least I can speak to this. It's very important that you at least consider filing habeas in the federal courts, and that would be outside of the immigration courts. This would be the district court of New Jersey or Pennsylvania or New York. They have been a lot more willing to, and they actually have the power to then decide that, okay, this detention is unlawful, it's without due process, and essentially order that your client, in this case, who needs bond gets a fair bond hearing. So right now, that's the only way to really give immigrants a chance to at least get a bond hearing. And they may even just get a straight up release if the federal judge believes that the immigration judges are not playing fair.
This next question is to Nydia, and I know you're not an attorney, but based on what you've seen and people you're talking to, if someone is approached by immigration enforcement, what should they do? And what are some of the common mistakes people should avoid? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Mary, for the question. Lo voy a decir en español y después lo traduzco hasta inglés. Tal vez para muchos en este clima que estamos ya hemos escuchado del taller de conocer nuestros derechos, pero pienso que vale la pena repetirlo por 1000 veces. Voy a revisar de conocer nuestros derechos en la casa y después en la calle. Y es la cosa como panorama que es súper importante que todos nosotros reconocemos es conocer nuestros derechos. No solamente es suficiente de que nosotros mismos sabemos, pero es muy importante que los niños también están participando en estos talleres de conocer nuestros derechos. Yo sé que a veces estamos en casas donde la mamá o la papá está cocinando y a veces estamos diciendo a los niños que se abren la puerta, entonces es muy importante que toda la familia conoce los derechos y sabe lo que debemos hacer cuando estamos interactuando con ICE. Y la otra, es que esta información más que podemos ampliar, más que podemos asegurar no solamente nuestra familia, pero el edificio entero, el lugar de trabajo entero, Entonces, si vives en un edificio, a veces algunos de nosotros vivimos en apartamentos donde tienes que bajar las escaleras y ahí se encuentra la puerta principal y solamente si abres la puerta principal y subes las escaleras vas a encontrar los demás apartamentos. En esos casos, no queremos que ahí se entre desde el principio, entonces muy importante que estamos andando por todo el apartamento o la casa donde hay múltiples para decir, ustedes saben qué debemos hacer en caso que ahí viene. Y el mismo con el trabajo, A veces hemos visto esos videos en los almacenes donde ahí se entra diciendo que los ciudadanos se paran acá y los demás se paran acá. Y en muchos de esos videos estamos viendo que la gente mismo está dividiéndose, Mira qué diferencia sería si todo el mundo nunca se movió, Que todo el mundo se queda donde están. Para tratar de limitar el trabajo que ICE puede hacer o que haga más difícil para que ellos puedan cumplir con su trabajo, pero eso requiere que estamos teniendo muchas conversaciones o cuando estamos andando a esos talleres de conocer nuestros derechos, aunque usted sabe, estás trayendo a una nueva persona que tal vez nunca ha participado. Como la primera es, todos nosotros tenemos 3 derechos constitucionales. Alguien me puede decir que esto no es como interactivo, pero voy a pedir. ¿Alguien me puede decir cuáles nuestros derechos constitucionales? Hay 3.
Remain silent.
Que puedes mantener su derecho al silencio, sí. Hay 2 más.
Con el attorney.
Ya, tienes acceso al derecho a un abogado. Y el último.
hacer una llamada telefónica.
Puedes hacer una llamada telefónica, eso no, sí puedes hacer eso, pero su tercer derecho constitucional es que usted no tiene que dar consentimiento a una búsqueda a su persona sin su consentimiento. Right now, obvio que estamos viendo eso en los videos, pero eso sí es uno de sus derechos que puedes decir eso. Right? So, cuando estamos hablando de, hay un poco de diferencia de cuando estamos interactuando con ICE en la casa en vez de la calle, pero esos tres son constantes. Right? So, en caso que ICE viene a la casa, right, se toca la puerta, y por eso estoy diciendo que es muy importante que la puerta siempre se anda cerrado, usted está tratando de encontrar qué. ¿Qué estás pidiendo a la persona, a la gente cuando ellos se tocan la puerta?
Una orden.
Una orden. ¿Y cualquier orden?
Just one second. There'll be an opportunity for questions.
Oh, sorry, I'm asking a question.
Yeah. So let's just continue.
Okay, no vamos a hacer todo interactivo. Yo lo voy a decir, pero suena como que muchos ya saben, entonces cuando se toca la puerta, estás tratando de encontrar un orden firmado por un juez, right? Y es súper importante que todos nosotros conocemos la diferencia, porque muchos agentes se andan con órdenes firmados por un agente de ICE. Y si ellos no pueden presentar el orden, no tienes que abrir la puerta, right? Puedes seguir haciendo sus cosas en la casa, déjalos ahí en la puerta tocándolo hasta que se cansan. Pero sí sabemos que a veces, y hemos visto los videos, la gente se deja la puerta abierta porque hay mucho calor o se olvidaron de cerrarlo y ahí se entra, right? Right, en esos momentos, right, queremos tratar de mantenernos calmas. Cuando ya abrió la puerta, no tienes el mismo acceso del orden, right, porque no estás en el mismo aire. Pero quieren hacer la pregunta, right, ¿estoy siendo arrestado? Right? Y si dicen que no, right, entonces, ¿estoy detenido? No. Right, so esto es por eso estoy diciendo que es tan importante que estamos haciendo prácticas, right? Porque a veces cuando una persona te haga las preguntas, ¿pero de dónde eres? ¿O de dónde, a dónde andas? ¿O de qué países? ¿O cuándo regresa la mamá? Nuestro instinto es de responder, right? Súper natural, súper normal, pero por eso se requiere en práctica para reforzar. Yo tengo que mantener mi derecho a mi silencio, yo tengo un derecho al abogado, y hemos visto videos donde la gente mismo están presentando sus propios papeles, y eso es, si quieren hacer, al final del día es su decisión, pero lo que queremos asegurar que todos saben es que no tienes que hacer eso, right? Puedes seguir con esos tres frases: estoy manteniendo mi derecho a la silencia, yo tengo un derecho a un abogado, no estoy dando consentimiento a esta búsqueda. Now, si ustedes quieren ir más de eso, right? Quieres presentar sus papeles, quieres meterse en una conversación con un agente, eso, como ustedes deciden. Pero al básico, todos deben saber que siempre puedes mantener y puedes ser constante con esos tres. Okay, so if it's being translated to English, should I repeat? It's translated. Great. So, y si están interesados en participar en un teatro de conocer sus derechos, cada jueves en la ciudad de Elizabeth lo hacemos y cada miércoles lo hacemos también. Y todos están súper disponibles de venir y participar en nuestra área.
Can I add to that? All right, please go ahead. Thank you.
Nedia, súper, gracias. He hecho muchos talleres con Nedia y Nedia y yo pues hemos participado en entrenar a las personas, y creo que estoy dando más información porque creo que es súper importante. Creo que esa es la parte más importante de ese taller, en mi opinión, ¿no? Porque creo que como comunidad nos tenemos que unir y tenemos que saber qué decir y qué no decir. Entonces eso requiere que estemos practicando lo que dijo la compañera Nedia, ¿no? Y cómo practicamos atendiendo a estos talleres, practicando con nuestros hijos. Y no es para hacer las misas, pero estamos en tiempos en donde necesitamos practicar. Les quiero dar una analogía. Veo camisetas de fútbol, ¿cierto? Me imagino que saben quién es Cristiano Ronaldo y Messi, ¿cierto? Bueno, Cristiano Ronaldo y Messi, ¿cuántas veces ustedes creen que ellos han practicado sus tiros libres? 1000 veces, 100,000 veces, y por eso son tan buenos. Mi analogía es, si usted no sabe cómo hacerlo inmediatamente con la memoria muscular de su cerebro, cómo acertar su derecho a permanecer en silencio, no lo vas a saber hacer en el momento en que lo necesites. Si usted no sabe acertar, buscar la orden de búsqueda firmada por el juez, con el nombre que tiene que ser, con la dirección que tiene que ser, usted se va a paniquear en ese momento y no va a saber qué hacer. Por eso es tan importante que como comunidad estemos practicando estas cosas, estemos entendiendo cuáles son nuestros derechos constitucionales y qué podemos hacer como personas inmigrantes de este país. Quiero agregar que la documentación es de suprema importancia. Cuando hay una interacción con inmigración, hay abogados como el abogado Andrew, como la abogada Ingrid, que te van a defender en ese momento inmediatamente, van a hacer una representación inmediata. Pero también es importante pensar, si esta persona me está violando los derechos, yo también tengo un caso que puedo llevar a la corte después. Y por eso es tan importante documentar. ¿Cómo podemos documentar? Grabando, como están haciendo en este momento, a través de audio, ¿cierto? A través de escribir. ¿A qué hora llegaron? ¿Cuántos aparecieron? ¿A quién estaban buscando? ¿Qué me dijeron? ¿Qué no me dijeron? ¿Yo di el consentimiento? ¿No lo di? ¿No recuerdo? Todas esas cosas hay que documentarlas. Porque al documentarlas podemos hacer un caso legal más grande. Y quiero darles un poquito más de esperanza, ¿no? Porque a través de la documentación de la comunidad, en esta última administración han habido victorias en la corte. Han habido victorias grandes, pero han tenido que documentar. Y si usted no sabe que hay que documentar, si sus niños no saben que hay que documentar, entonces desafortunadamente los procesan y no hay nada que hacer. Bueno, quiero agregarle una cosa más, y es que hay cosas, si eres una persona indocumentada, si eres una persona que entró, por ejemplo, si eres ciudadano, no tienes que cargar documentación comprobando que eres ciudadano. Pero si eres una persona que entró con visa turista o estás aquí con una residencia permanente y tiene más de 18 años, es importante cargar esa información. No el documento de su país, sino la información de ese país, dejándole saber que usted está aquí legalmente. Hay otra cosa que es muy importante, y es cómo establecer que has sido residente por más de 2 años. Porque no queremos caer en lo que se llama un expedited remove, ¿no? Que lo saquen del país sin un proceso rápido, ¿no? Si usted puede comprobar que ha estado aquí por más de 2 años, entonces no vas a caer en eso. ¿Y cómo hacemos eso? Cargando una factura quizás de hace 2 años, o la licencia de conducir que pueda comprobar que has estado aquí por más de 2 años. Pero es muy importante cargar un documento, y no un documento de su país, sino un documento de ese país. Y hay mucho más, pero los animo a que participen en los talleres de conocer sus derechos del viento del espíritu y desearse el camino.
So at this time, I will go to Maritza, and after Maritza, we go back to Ingrid, so we can continue walking us through her presentation. So, Maritza, you are a small business owner, and you see lots of Latino clients on a daily basis. As you meet with them, what are you hearing? What are some of their concerns? And what might this panel or anyone be able to do or suggest to the people that you meet with on a regular basis to allay some of their fears and concerns?
Yes, my name is Maritza Martinez. I'm also one of the commissioners here for the city of Plainfield, and I work very closely with the Hispanic community. I have an office which we help a lot of our Hispanic community in many different things. My Hispanics, sometimes they don't even know how to make an appointment to the doctors, or any sources, like for example now everything's online, like unemployment, the IDE, things like that is very, very hard. Like they don't know, some of the Hispanics don't know the English, the language, so our office is to kind of help them and guide them. So people are coming to our office with many fears, and we're helping them to make a lot of them right now. have power of attorneys, which I think is a very great thing, especially when they have kids, like Attorney Avery was saying, right? I think they should do this power of attorneys for, especially when they have kids, and you don't want if immigration takes you away, who are you going to leave the kids to? So it's very important to make those power of attorneys, or if you have a house and you have a car and you have money in the bank, to do a power of attorney, to have somebody in charge or something like that, you get arrested. So those are the very important, and a lot of people are coming in to make that paperwork. And a lot of people, it's just the fears, and what I'm hearing a lot that they're doing, which is so nice, people from the churches and things like that has documents, and to the parents that they're illegal, they're helping them to pick up the children, and some of them to drop them off in school, because some of the parents are just very, very scared. Because it seems that in the city of Plainfield, immigration has, this almost every day it's here in the city of Plainfield. That's number one. And then two, so that's a big help. When we had the rally with all the students at the city hall, it's just seeing all those students crying and seeing and hearing from them their stories that they're doing the food shopping for their parents and stuff like that. It's so sad to hear that. So I just hope, and let's just pray that all this thing ends quickly, and just to be something, to come up with any idea, like a reform or something like that, because we need something like that. So it's just people are afraid, and I guess with all the people here, and I guess your organization, that's a great idea to teaching them. I think that's a wonderful thing to teach them about their rights. I also see this red card that the mayor has. This is whoever it's here. This red card is very, very important. It actually tells you about your rights. So I guess whoever would need this red card, if somebody we need at the end, this red card, it tells you about all your rights. So this is one of the great information for you to have. That's all.
Well, thank you, Maritza. Now we go back to Ingrid for her to continue walking us through some very important information.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Before I continue, I just want to acknowledge the presence of Pancha Commissioner and Community Leader Flor Gonzalez, who's here with us too. Thank you for everything you do for our community for so many years. We appreciate it. All right, so two more things that I wanted to discuss, Mayor, with regards to important changes, and this is in the context of immigration court, are that what the government is doing now, what judges are doing is that they're pre-terminating the cases. And what this means is that the person doesn't have, the applicant doesn't have an opportunity to give testimony or to present their witnesses. So if you have a pending case before the immigration court, make sure that you work very, very closely with your attorney. And of course, your attorney has to file an opposition to that intent of that judge to pre-terminate your case. Because, again, you have to be a strong litigator and don't accept what the judge says by saying, oh, I intend to pre-terminate your case. You need to say, Judge, I oppose that determination and intend to submit my opposition and make that opposition. We have had a few cases where the judge intended to pre-terminate the client's case and we said, Judge, we oppose that and we need time to submit that opposition and we prevailed. So you need to be strong. Una de las cosas nuevas que está pasando en las Cortes de Inmigración es que las Cortes, los jueces están preterminando los casos. Lo que esto quiere decir es que el aplicante no tiene chance de presentar su testimonio, de presentar sus testigos, pero su abogado tiene que trabajar muy de cerca con su abogado y su abogado debe de oponerse o presentar una oposición a esa preterminación de su caso. En nuestras oficinas hemos tenido varios casos donde el juez tenía la intención de preterminar el caso, nuestra oficina se opuso y pudimos ganarlo. Entonces, por favor, no tomen la decisión del juez como ya esto es lo final. Su abogado tiene que oponerse y litigar para usted. Otro cambio importante es para las personas de países latinoamericanos. que ahora el gobierno nos está aplicando los agreements, los arreglos que han hecho con países, con terceros países como El Salvador, Honduras, Uganda, Ecuador, Guatemala, que por ejemplo, si tenemos a alguien de Ecuador o tenemos a alguien de Colombia y está pidiendo un asilo político en los Estados Unidos y esa persona ingresó a los Estados Unidos en noviembre del 2019, le están mandando a un tercer país. Entonces, alguien de Ecuador lo puede mandar para Guatemala, o lo puede mandar para El Salvador, o para Uganda. Entonces, es importante saber qué es lo que está pasando en cortes y hablar muy de cerca con sus abogados para tener un plan de acción. ¿Qué pasa si este corte me quiere a mí aplicar este ACA Agreements y me quiere mandar para un tercer país? En ese caso, usted y su abogado se debe de oponer y decir al juez que está de desacuerdo y necesita tiempo para someter una oposición y explicar por qué no lo debe mandar para un tercer país. Pero eso aplica solamente para personas que entraron a los Estados Unidos noviembre 19 del año 2019. So another change that we need to be aware of is the ACA agreements. The ACA agreements are agreements entered between the United States and other third world countries, such as Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. And what happens is that if the applicant entered the United States on or after November 19, 2019, and someone is applying for asylum, the judge will not take their asylum application. They will actually want to deport you to one of those countries. But that's not the end of that. Your attorney can oppose that determination, and sometimes you can prevail. So never take that judge's decision as the last decision. You need to always oppose, you need to appeal, and I'm sure that you can prevail. Those are two major changes, Mayor, that I wanted to discuss. I have more, but I'm going to pass it on to the next colleague so all of us have a chance.
Is there anything else that any of the panelists would like to say to the audience before we go to them for questions?
Yeah, I can add one more thing, Mayor. La otra cosa que quisiera mencionar es en caso que usted o algún familiar está detenido y no tienes los recursos para pagar por un abogado privado, hay una página que está fundada por el gobierno estatal que se llama la Iniciativa de Defensa contra la Deportación y Detención. Y podemos pasar ese enlace ahí donde vas a encontrar los 4 o 5 grupos estatales que están fundados por el Estado, que se da representación gratis para los que están en deportación o detención. El otro recurso que quisiera compartir es en caso que no tienes los suficientes recursos para llenar el comisario de una persona detenida, o maybe la familia no se siente seguro o confortable visitando a una familia en detención, pero quieres que esa persona reciba visitas o que alguien se acompañe a esa persona a su corte. Hay una organización increíble que se llama Primeras Amigos, First Friends en inglés, y ellos ayudan a poner dinero en el comisario de una persona, y también ellos ayudan para hacer visitas en el centro en caso que usted no se sienta confortable, o si quieres que ellos también tengan un acompañante en el corte o cualquier otra cosa para compartir.
Okay. So now it's time for us to go to the audience, and I'm sure that the questions that many of you have, and so this is an opportunity for you to ask those questions. The mic will walk the mic to you, and you can pose your question, and we will provide answers to the best that we can. Who has the mic? And we'll be holding the mic.
Muy buenas noches con todos. Muy buenas noches con todos. Gracias, Mario, gracias a todos los abogados que se encuentran aquí, a doña Maritza por habernos invitado. Yo tengo una pregunta. Disculpe, no sé si me escucharon. Gracias, Mario, gracias a todos los abogados, a doña Maritza por habernos invitado. Mi nombre es Dylan Vargas, corro una academia de soccer non-profit aquí en la ciudad de Plainfield. Mi pregunta quizás para la abogada Ingrid. Nosotros, como le menciono, tenemos una academia en que los muchachos viajamos a diferentes estados. Y ahora con lo que he escuchado que ICE va a estar trabajando en los aeropuertos, yo quisiera hacer una pregunta. Los muchachos hemos viajado local, muchachos que pues la verdad no tienen documentos, hemos viajado local, no hemos tenido ningún problema, nos han pedido solamente un ID de la escuela o simplemente el pase de abogado, pero con lo que se escucha, ¿usted cree que puede ser un problema ahora tal vez poder nosotros aceptar alguna invitación tal vez de Los Ángeles, California, para que mi academia pueda ir con los muchachos para allá, por no arriesgarles a ellos, sabiendo las cosas que están sucediendo?
Gracias por su pregunta.
Disculpe, los muchachos son menores de 18 años, tenemos muchachos que viajamos de 14, de 16. Los quisiera saber para yo transmitir a una gran comunidad que tengo liderando. Entonces quiero darles una tranquilidad a los padres también, ya que hemos perdido muchos niños por el miedo de los padres que no quieren salir. Y también quisiera hacerlo adicional una pregunta. ¿Inmigración podría agarrarle a los niños?
Gracias. Gracias por su pregunta. Lamentablemente sí corren el riesgo, bajo las nuevas normativas, bajo los nuevos enforzamientos que está haciendo ICE, y no importa que sean menores de edad, podrían ser arrestados y ser puestos en un centro juvenil mientras que los procesan. De hecho, se han visto recientemente varios casos donde los jóvenes tenían casos pendientes de estatus juvenil, Special Immigrant Juvenile, y ya tenían permisos de trabajo, pero como su fecha de prioridad no estaba corriente para poder proceder a la residencia, los arrestaron, los pusieron frente a la Corte de Inmigración, porque no importa que sean menores de edad, pueden ser arrestados también. Así que mi sugerencia personal sería, para evitar el riesgo, mejor no participar cuando toque viajar, lamentablemente por ahora. Eso puede cambiar, claro está, pero actualmente es bastante riesgoso.
Gracias.
And to the audience, if you will limit what you have to say, if you want to make a statement for 30 seconds and then ask your question. You want to make room for as many people as possible.
Right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, your panelists, city residents. My name is Jose Sanchez. I work in the Plainfield Public Library as an ESL director. My question is, what should be our stand against ICE? We usually have an attendance of 100 to 120 people daily in our library, but due to ICE, the latest rates or attendance have decreased. So my question is, what would be our posture? Like, what is our stand? What should we do in case ICE is pretending to get into the library? What we should do? Are we allowed to hire students, or are we supposed to confront ICE? What should be our stand?
So anybody could answer that, but, and I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think you should confront us. I advise no one should confront us. Now, if we can get the answer to the question.
I'm happy to thank you.
Bruce is asking Anna to translate it to Spanish before we
Okay.
answer. La pregunta que hizo, señores, es que trabaja en la librería pública de Tennessee. Él quiere saber cuáles serían los protocolos cuando entra a la librería. Ellos tienen una clase de iglesia donde normalmente los participantes deciden hacer lo. Actualmente esa participación ha bajado y quiere saber qué podría hacer para proteger a los que asisten. La postura de la librería.
So if it's helpful, thank you for the question. About a month ago now, the state signed into law a bill that's called the Safe. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. About a month ago, the state of New Jersey passed a law called the Safe Communities Act. And basically what it requires is the Attorney General to issue model policies about how public places can best interact with ICE. Now, those model policies have not yet been issued, but they are potentially a good first step to reference. Now, you can reference those model policies. You can also, folks have the discretion to sort of go above and beyond. That'll be the floor, not the ceiling. I think probably some other parameters that may be helpful is you are able to create a space so long as it is an equitable space. So like, for example, an emergency room, anybody can go into an emergency room, right? And so ICE also has the same access. Otherwise, it would be considered discrimination. We couldn't say at the emergency room door, like, everybody can come in, but not ICE agents, we have to vet you first. But like, ICE can't go past the emergency room because nobody can, right? Like, you have to get vetted by the charge nurse at the front to say who can go back there or not. Now, I say that to say you could do something similar in the library, right? So right now, and I'm saying this knowing logistically it may be a challenge, right? But for example, right now, some libraries have the mechanical doors, right, or open doors, and they're never locked. You could not start locking the door and saying, anybody can come in but not us. That's not okay. What you can do, though, is say that the library has a new policy now where actually the door is always locked, and one of the volunteers or one of the staff of the Plainfield Library, they open for everyone. Now, I'm saying this knowing that that would potentially decrease attendance because people will be like, the library's locked. But if you wanted to make it equitable and to create that level of protection, you could do that, right? It's an idea. The other sort of offering is you can do signage on the doors that say, like, for patrons only. Now, granted, one could make the argument that an agent is a patron, right? But one of the things the two of the things that are helpful for that is the first is it sends a signal to agents that the library is aware of its rights, right? Otherwise, how would they have known to put up a sign that says, no one can come into this building unless they have a warrant signed by a federal judge, right? Now, granted, again, they can come in because anybody else can come in, but it signals something. The second is it can help with community safety, right? Because it's also signaling to community members that you know. Other things that we have seen in other cities is that libraries or schools will host trainings where they'll explain to community members, like, this is what our process is. We know it's not perfect, but we want you to know what to expect in the spaces. If you aren't, I can sort of go on, and I'm happy to sort of sit down and sort of think thoughtfully and collaboratively about, like, what works best for your library. You can also do the same thing for other parts of the library, right? Where you say, like, actually the children's section is closed to everybody unless you're with a parent and a child. And in that way, you can sort of recreate what you attempted to create at the main door in different sections of the library. I know this is not an ideal situation, and typically, we would have all people's due process rights protected and honored. But these are lawful, equitable caveats and how we can make sure that people feel more protected and more comfortable patronizing the space.
So una de las cosas que se dijo es que la locación tiene que ser equitativa, entonces no se le puede negar la entrada a ICE, ¿verdad? Pero dio el ejemplo que, por ejemplo, en una sala de emergencia todo el mundo puede ingresar, ¿verdad? Sea lo que sea la persona, pero hay en las salas de emergencia hay lugar restrictiva solo para los que trabajan ahí. Entonces puede ser una idea similar, como se llama en la librería, nomás que tiene que ser equitativo. Entonces uno de los ejemplos que ella dijo que se podría hacer es empezar a vaquear la puerta, ¿verdad? Y que la gente solo puede ingresar si es que alguien de adentro lo deja entrar. Lo que causa ese problema es que a veces la gente se podría molestar un poco porque ahora la puerta está laqueada y tienen que estar acá y deja entrar. Pero eso es equitativo para todos, ¿verdad? Una persona desde adentro te tiene que dejar entrar. Y otro ejemplo que hizo es también, especialmente con los sectores de la librería de niños, ¿verdad? Pueden poner una póliza que se dice, ¿verdad? Que solo gente a los padres de los niños pueden entrar con los niños. Entonces, con tal que la locación sea equitativa para todos, no se está rompiendo las reglas. También se dijo que podría ser un programa donde se le explica a la comunidad cuáles son las nuevas pólizas de cómo la librería actuaría. También dijo que se podrían poner carteles en las puertas que se dice que la librería solo para los clientes, pero también se puede argumentar que los agentes de ICE se pueden considerar clientes, pero al mismo tiempo uno está dejando el escrito y el un statement de las pólizas y lo que quieren hacer.
You know, my concern was because the rates from ICE are every day more and more aggressive. And we have already conducted some seminars and workshops. We have passed out cards with everything they have to say. But I think we should do more. I mean, we don't know, sometimes they are doing their rates at the corner of the library, and that is supposed to be a safe place for our residents. The immigrants are a big part of the population, and I think we should take care of them as the rest of the residents.
Let me just say something quickly. And you're absolutely right. And I would like one of the attorneys or Nadia address the part of the question that you asked the first time around. Should you confront us? And so I would like to hear the response to that.
Yeah, so el señor dijo que lo que el tema es que las reglas de ICE han incrementado más y entiende que se debería poder hacer más. Entonces, especialmente si se escucha que ICE está en la esquina, ¿qué es lo que se puede hacer? El alcalde le ha pedido a uno de los jueces, abogados, que responde la pregunta que hice al comienzo, de qué se puede hacer cuando ICE está.
And the consequences.
Y las consecuencias de enfrentar a ICE.
So this is on a person-to-person basis, really, and an institution-to-institution basis. And I mean, I think Nadia gave you a great response that it really depends on what the institution is prepared for, like what has been talked about, what is the protocol that is established. I think that we should always, me personally, right, as Brian Lozano, I think we should always assert our constitutional rights, because that's what the Constitution is there for us to assert our constitutional rights. Now, you should know how to assert your constitutional rights, and you should be documenting thus you asserting your constitutional rights so that there is a legal case. But one thing is the reality, and one thing is the theory. In reality, unfortunately, you may be hurt. What is the protocol, though, and how comfortable are you in asserting your rights? So I can't give you, yes, you should do it just by looking at you, right? I can give you a Know Your Rights training, and based off that Know Your Rights training, do you feel prepared to assert your constitutional rights? That's really the question, and there's a lot of preparation that goes into that. And I think that one very good place to start are these guidelines that the state is issuing that I don't believe have come down yet. But that's a starting place, continuing Know Your Rights with organizations that have been doing this work for more than several decades, right? Like, these folks know what they're doing, so let's continue training our community. Let's continue training our community leaders so that you can assert them. But it's really on an individual to individual basis. My response in my situation, we should always assert our constitutional rights, because that's what they're there for. That's why our history exists, the formation of this country. That's why people have died, so that we can assert our constitutional rights.
I just wanted to add that you should never confront any officer or an ICE officer. You have the right to observe, you have the right to record, you have the right to, document everything, especially now with the governor's website where we can upload all of this information, right? And I do suggest that all of us, if you observe something that, somebody's being mistreated, record it from a distance, right? Never put yourself in a situation where you're interfering, because you can record, you can document, but you cannot interfere, because then you could yourself get arrested. You wouldn't want to do that. And with regards to the library, I guess, each problem brings, opportunity, right? That's the way I see it. So then maybe the library can implement, a couple of days online, a couple of days in person. And I think that you're right. We should always do more, right? Because that's how we make change, right? If we don't do much, there's no change, right? So it's the doers who create change. So I absolutely agree with you. We can have a chat after the presentation and see how we can collaborate together, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Solo bien rápido lo que dijeron los abogados, el señor Lorenzo dijo que en las situaciones todo depende en la persona, lo que uno se sienta confortable en la situación, ¿verdad? Algo de la teoría que es lo que se podría hacer y algo de la realidad, entonces, o sea, depende de cómo usted se siente confortable para interactuar con ICE. La abogada Isabela te dijo que no deberías interferir con ICE, ¿verdad? Pero tú tienes el derecho de tomar videos, tienes el derecho de hablar, pero no interferir con su seguridad.
Hello, good evening. My name is Sebastian Torres, resident here of Plainfield. I wanted to start off by thanking all the panelists tonight for coming by. You say you have 5 hours. I love that. That's great. You don't have time. Thank you so much. I think maybe that's right, Jenny. You're from 8th Road?
Yes.
You know Jenny?
I do.
Okay, her daughter Camilla is my student. You should ask her. But thank you for making it interactive and fun and everything else. Appreciate it. So just to start off, I wanted to thank all of you, yes, and not just for educating the public, but also educating the leadership in the city, which I think is very important. I wanted to address an article that came out in local press from January, right? And I'll read it verbatim, and this is just something that the mayor put out. And I was a little concerned with it, and I wanted all of you guys to clarify it for us. The mayor stated, and I'll read it verbatim, he said, "What is not occurring in terms of what information has come to us is that there isn't an ICE raid where they go into locations where they believe Latinos or any undocumented person will assemble, just walking in, bringing up folks. That is not happening." So I wanted to address that because from what I'm hearing tonight, I want people to be prepared. I want people to be aware of what actually is happening. From the lived experiences of the community, that's precisely what's happening. We are raiding in a way that they're targeting people who are not being looked at by warrants. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But my question is, how can we as a community kind of keep an eye out? I know Brian, you're Colombian?
Yes.
Okay, so like, I grew up in Colombia, so we're like big on like keeping an eye out for things. So like, just dangerous environments, right? So I grew up always thinking like, what should I look for that could be a danger to me? So what should the community look for? What trends have you been seeing in these raids? And if you could correct the statements made by the mayor, just so we understand, what trends do we see with the raids? What kind of vehicles should we look for? What kind of individuals should we be looking out to, kind of like inform those around us, right? I have some business owners in town who are my friends, and they're also concerned because they don't know what to look for when people walk into their businesses, perhaps to disrupt business and target their clientele. So what should we be looking out for? What have you guys seen in terms of trends, and how could we address that?
I just want to say that if I understood correctly, there's nothing that we need to correct from what the mayor said. These things happen.
I'm sorry, you want me to read this?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're here to educate, we're here to answer questions and not to create more issues. But, the way that ICE acts is, they do everything and every little trick that they can do, right? But I'm not so sure that there's nothing to correct on that statement. But anyways, I think that we should bypass that because that doesn't bring any help to the public. Thank you.
So, sorry. Is this on?
We're being misinformed, frankly. I mean, listen, we're going to get informed.
James, director. Do we have any officers there?
Are the officers ICE? What are we getting officers for?
Just please conduct yourself in a decent manner.
Is she working for you or is she working for the public? That's my question.
Me?
Yes.
I am an independent attorney.
Yes.
I have my own offices. I do not work for the mayor. I'm here volunteering my time. And I'm not here to waste my time, sir. Thank you.
And things are changing every day. My question is, I'm Joanne Matalus, I'm on the board of the library, and does ICE have the ability to come into any city building and do what they do and arrest people? Is that a possible in any city building? Because the public library is a city-owned building.
La pregunta de la señora fue si es que ICE tiene la posibilidad de entrar a cualquier edificio de la municipalidad.
So, immigration enforcement is federal jurisdiction, which means that we have jurisdiction in the entire country. Now, there are places where they're not authorized to go into without a valid search warrant, and that is precisely what my colleague Daniel was getting at with essentially establishing areas that are authorized and unauthorized for patrons or for employees. And so these are methods, legal methods that can be used. Now, once again, there's a reality and the theory. The reality is that they may still go into those spaces, but in theory, you have a legal case in case they do go into those spaces, which is, once again, I'm going to repeat, documenting is so important.
Because I run a food pantry, we have a sign that says patrons only, so we could put up that sign.
You could, yes. And in theory, that'll work.
But at least it's a legal right.
Yeah, at least it's a legal right, it's a legal theory, and it's a legal claim that you can assert after the matter.
Is it on? On New Year's Eve morning, I confronted ICE in a local park, and they denied me access to my street. My question is, how does an ordinary citizen determine whether or not they're legal law enforcement? Because the people that I saw had no identification. I know what a police officer looks like in Plainfield. I know what a postal inspector looks like. I know what an FBI agent looks like. But these men were masked, they were unidentified, they had no lights, they had no sirens, but they stopped the citizen in a park. So how does someone like me know that they're legitimate law enforcement? And that I'm supposed to obey their order if they're not identified?
La pregunta es cómo una persona cotidiana podría saber que es un agente de ICE, aun si ellos no están identificados.
Okay, so I'll take you before you guys, did you want to?
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, your concern is a lot of people's concern, my concern as well. Because how do I know if this is a legit officer, right? With their facial maskings and everything. Taking like 2 girls, 3 young girls, right? Like, how do I identify, right? That's a big problem, and I think that there was a lawsuit where they're trying to change that, right? Because if you as an officer are conducting yourself following protocol, you should be proud of what you're doing, the way that you're carrying out the tasks, right? But for right now, you do, as a citizen, you do have the right to ask, because nowadays it's not only ICE doing these raids, right? We have the FBI, we have the Bureau of Tobacco and Alcohol that have nothing to do with ICE enforcement. Now they're actually doing that type of work as well as some other agencies, federal agencies. As a citizen, you do have the right to ask, what agency are you from? What is your tag number? What is your phone number? Not the phone number. What is your tag number and your full name? But unfortunately, as we have seen in social media, they get aggressive when you as a citizen want to assert your rights to find out who this person is. My suggestion is to continue asking what agency, what is your tag number, what is your name, because if you don't do that, then it becomes a custom that, oh, you know what, we no longer have to give our information. There is certain protocol that we have to follow, and always document, especially nowadays with the governor's website that you can upload all of that information, because if no one complains, there will be no change, right?
She's got the picture. I said it.
Lo que yo no puedo saber fue de que uno tiene el derecho de preguntar, ¿verdad? De qué agencia es, cuál es el nombre de la gente, cuál es el número de identificación de la gente. Lamentablemente es difícil identificarlo, pero uno tiene el derecho de preguntar y siempre lo más importante es documentarlo. Ahora que el gobernador tiene su website, uno puede poner toda la información ahí.
Gracias por esos espacios que crean conciencia ciudadana. Mi pregunta es la siguiente. El ser ciudadano y con las nuevas facultades que tiene ICE, estas facultades ampliadas, ciudadanos nacidos en este país, de ascendencia latina, con rasgos obviamente latinos o extranjeros, ¿qué protección real tienen? ¿También pueden ser arrestados? ¿También deben llevar sus documentos? Porque uno de los abogados indicaba que el ciudadano no era necesario que llevara su identificación de ese país, pero a su vez también se nos indicó que se ampliaron las facultades de ICE para detener los temas de raza o idioma.
So the question was for citizens who are born here but are from Latin descent. Is it important for them to also carry the documentation? Because one of the lawyers had brought up that the range in which ICE is conducting itself has widened.
Bueno, ahora responder en español para que, pues para facilitar el entendimiento. Otra vez, es una de esas respuestas que quizás no nos va a dejar satisfechos, pero depende de su preferencia individual de ciudadano, ¿no? Si eres un ciudadano que, pues eres ciudadano, ¿no? Por ley no tienes que andar con documentación comprobando de que eres ciudadano. Por ley no tienes que hacerlo. Ahora, la realidad es que en esta administración ciudadanos se han visto afectados simplemente por donde viven, cómo se ven, etc. Entonces, es una decisión muy personal. Depende de cómo te sientes, ¿no? De tu comodidad de acertar sus derechos constitucionales, y también depende de qué entrenamiento tienes en cuanto a conocer sus derechos. También depende mucho de, por ejemplo, personas que son... hay que tener muchas cosas en cuenta, ¿no? Hay una familia que depende de mí. Si me llevan a un centro de detención, aunque yo tenga papeles, ¿cuánto tiempo voy a estar ahí? Y si mi familia depende de mí, ¿quién va a cuidar a esas personas? Una persona que no tiene dependientes, quizás como estrategia comunitaria, puede tomar ese riesgo de irse a un centro de detención, ¿no? Entonces depende mucho de la estrategia comunitaria y las comunicaciones que uno mismo ha tenido con un abogado para desarrollar esas estrategias comunitarias, estrategias legales. Como les dije, no los va a dejar satisfechos esa respuesta, pero es una cosa muy individual. Pero por ley, ciudadanos no tienen que cargar documentación comprobando de que son ciudadanos.
So what the lawyer said is that by law it's not necessary, but unfortunately that isn't what we have been seeing. There has been cases where citizens have been unfortunately detained by ICE, so it is a personal choice that somebody has to take. You know, if you get detained, you know, how long will it take for you to get out? If you don't have your documents, and you know, if you're the breadwinner of the home, then how will this affect you? So by law, the answer is no. It's not necessary for you to carry it, but it is a personal decision that you have to take, seeing what has happened around.
Good evening, everyone. This is Councilwoman Cherry. A question that I receive a lot from my constituents are, and I don't know if this is the panel or the police director. So if one of our residents is pulled over, taken by ICE, the vehicle is now abandoned, a lot of my constituents ask the question, what should they do? Because now the vehicle is left there on the street, open, left running. Should they call the police? Should they enter into the vehicle? A lot of my constituents, they call me in real time. They're like, very apprehensive of going in the vehicle thinking that it's illegal. So if someone could provide guidance as to what our constituents should be doing, that would greatly appreciate it.
La pregunta que se hizo es para cuando ahí se detiene una persona y lo sacan del vehículo, ¿qué es lo que los ciudadanos, los residentes de Flequi deberían hacer con el vehículo que se ha quedado ahí, a veces prendido, abierto? Esta pregunta es para el que quiere responder.
Hi, really quickly, I just want to say that the police department in a lot of these cases that actually one-stop shopping in regards to incidents like this. If there's a situation where the vehicle is left on the roadway, the individuals have been taken by ICE, they have been detained, we will call our police department, and what we will do is we will give the family an opportunity to get the vehicle. So what does that look like? I'll send an officer to that location if the department is called. The officer will run the plate on that vehicle. That plate should come back to a phone number or a resident. We'll respond to that resident and make at least an opportunity to allow individuals to take possession of that vehicle before it is sold by the police department, so that they do not incur any fees or any charges for that. So that's the best thing to do. If you see any of these vehicles running in the street or somebody removed from the vehicle, call the department and we will.
La respuesta es que el carro se ha quedado ahí arrestado, que deberían llamar a la policía y dejarles saber del vehículo. Lo que va a hacer la policía es correr las placas del vehículo, esa placa le va a dar un nombre y un número de quién le pertenece y le van a dar la oportunidad a la familia para poder recoger el carro antes de que tenga que ser llevado por la grúa. El número que deberían llamar.
There's several numbers to the police department, non-emergency, 908-753-3131 or 908-753-3360.
So, hay dos números que pueden llamar. Uno es el 908-753-3131. El otro es el 908-753-3360.
To everybody sitting at the table. I'm glad you guys came out and informed us of what we should and shouldn't do when we're confronted with ICE. But my question is more like the young lady from Elizabeth. She says she holds seminars with people to explain to them what to do and stuff like that. I also know that in Elizabeth they're being held seminars to help people who are not here as legal status and to help them along to starting the process of becoming a legal person here. I just want to know why I'm not hearing about these seminars here in Clinton.
La pregunta fue que dijeron que en Elizabeth están teniendo seminarios para ayudar a los residentes a tener estancia legal acá en los Estados Unidos, y la pregunta es para seminarios similares acá en México.
Are they going to answer? No. She's going to say something that's germane to that.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. The gentleman asked that the seminars be going on in Elizabeth, but we have been having seminars in Vancouver. Every single one of our schools has had a seminar where our police department has participated, the city has participated, and even people from the library have participated in organizations that deal with immigration. So, we're inviting them through Parents Square, and we invited them through the bus and everything. So please be sure to look at your children's, look at Genesis and your
Yeah, I have Genesis and Parents.
Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't come across it. That's why I'm asking, because I'm not one of the persons that needs to go, but I have a lot of friends that keep asking me, you know, which routes we should be able to take or whatever to become legal here in the United States, and I don't know what to answer them. And I found out from my sister, who is in Elizabeth, that there's people actually helping illegal immigrants on the path
We have our schools where we have presented parents with the power of attorney in inclusive Spanish. We have people that are helping them feel down. We have people we have a list of notaries publics so that you don't get charged. So, I'm just saying in Spanish. Estamos teniendo, el señor habló en Elizabeth, parece que se está llevando a cabo mucha orientación sobre lo que está pasando con la migración. Pero les quiero decir que aquí en Plainfield estamos también en todas nuestras escuelas, estamos teniendo conferencias con los padres, donde la misma, donde el municipio ha participado, la biblioteca ha participado, abogados han participado, y estamos estamos ayudando a los padres a llenar los poderes para poder dejar a otra persona, quizás con documentos, para que se pueda responsabilizar en caso de que algún niño o algún padre quede arrestado. Estamos dando a los padres esa información también. Como ustedes saben, nuestro distrito tiene un sistema de comunicación increíble que se llama Parent Square. Entonces, por Parent Square, es seguro que lo miren, porque a veces nuestros padres no miran la información. Pero te digo que en todas las escuelas hemos estado teniendo esas discusiones y ayudando a los padres. También tenemos una lista de notarios gratis para que no tengan que pagar por notario. Yo pertenezco al Centro de Éxito Familiar y en mi centro leemos las cartas que enseñan a los padres, porque hay lugares que les cobran por leer las cartas. Pueden venir a nuestro centro que quedamos en el 504 de la Madison y ahí podemos leer las cartas, ayudar a hacer preguntas. Como saben, nosotros en las escuelas estamos teniendo mucha responsabilidad y en nuestras escuelas, si llega inmigración, los principales tienen que inmediatamente llamar a la oficina principal y la oficina principal de inmediato habla con nuestro sistema legal y le envían a ese director de la escuela un protocolo a seguir. So what I was telling him is that in the school district we have 14 schools. In our school district, if immigration comes through the door, the protocol is for the principal of the school to stop, call downtown, call the main office immediately. Our main office will contact our legal department, and our legal department will give that principal protocols to follow. So in our school district, principals don't have to deal with these situations by themselves. They have to stop and immediately call our district office to get corrected. Thank you. And I think my colleague here from the library, he said they've been having, they've also been having trainings.
All right, so I'll say I have kids, so I can use Parent Square. But there's plenty of people here in Plainfield that have no kids.
Yes.
What I would say to my kids is there a possibility to make like a mass mailing? Listen, if you want
Yes.
to,
For those kind of people, we have the library. Unfortunately, right now, the library is closed because we're under construction. But we're about to reopen, hopefully in the middle of April, and we will have a reopening ceremony in June. But we do have these type of events. We have seminars, we have workshops. But yeah, we're under construction and we're about to restart all these initiatives in April. So next time, just drop by. A lot of programs, a lot of things that are going on right now. So yeah, we'll have to information. Y bueno, para las personas nosotros en la biblioteca de Plainfield tenemos este tipo de iniciativas, tenemos estos seminarios, estos talleres, los tuvimos anteriormente, antes de que la biblioteca cerrara. Desafortunadamente, estamos ahorita en construcción, pero vamos a abrir nuestras puertas a mediados de abril. Dios lo quiera, ¿no? Y entonces tenemos una ceremonia de apertura en junio. Nosotros hemos trabajado aquí con algunos activistas de aquí de la ciudad y aquí tenemos los seminarios, hemos pasado las tarjetitas y hemos también tenido abogados. Y para todo eso tienen que pasar por la biblioteca. Nosotros tenemos muchos programas, muchas cosas que ustedes pueden ver que les pueden ayudar mucho a la comunidad.
You can also sign up for our e-newsletter as well. The city has one, and it's also we're allowed to post things from the school and also the library. So that's also another way of getting updates and information.
Otro comentario que se hizo es que también se pueden inscribir para el newsletter de la municipalidad. Ahí se ponen bastante las informaciones que dan las escuelas de los, y también el disponibilidad de los talleres que tienen.
Hi, my name is Meg. So I know there's a rapid response network in New Jersey, but I guess my question is, I guess the police director is here, how is law enforcement being directed to act around ICE, and are they doing any specific training on ICE?
La pregunta fue para el director de policía, de cómo se les están exigiendo a los policías que actúen cuando hagan los agentes de ICE y qué dirección.
The easiest answer to that is that we follow the Immigrant Trust Directive in the North Side. As everyone knows, Plainfield is a welcoming city, so that means that we do not participate in any ICE raids. We don't respond to anything that they do. We will only enforce in an exigent circumstance. That is, if somebody was shot, if somebody was harmed, if there was a criminal act occurred, that's where the police department would respond. Or if, like I said earlier, there's a situation where an individual doesn't know if it's an ICE agent or something of that nature, they get a phone call to the police department, and we will respond so that we can appropriately identify the people who are on scene so that we can defuse situations. But outside of that, everything is centered around the Immigrant Trust Directive, and the training in regards to that, a lot of that is done to the police academy through the PTC. We also have something that's called CIT training, which is critical incident, and that identifies situations such as ICE, other things that may happen in the town that would be a critical incident that we have to respond outside of the norm. So the training is there, programming is there, and the legislation is there. Thank you.
Lo que dijo el director, en breves palabras, es que los individuos no se unan a los agentes de ICE. Si es que hay un problema, si es que tiene preguntas de si es que es un agente de ICE, usted puede llamar al departamento de policía y puede identificar si es que en verdad es un agente de ICE. Todo esto va en correspondencia con el Immigration Trust Directive.
Follow-up. A bill was passed today in Trenton. It's the governor for signature, making it illegal for any law enforcement to be masked to disguise their identity. Are you prepared to enforce that here?
El señor dijo que se acaba de pasar una ley donde se ha hecho ilegal desde cubierto con la cara. La pregunta es si es que están listos para enforzar eso.
The simple answer to that is this, and I'm sure all the would agree. The federal government supersedes any local jurisdiction. We cannot enforce things that go federal law. So if a state passes something, the federal government does not pass it, that puts us in a legal quagmire where we cannot enforce something that is a federal law. Now the state can pass things, and I'm sure that what will happen is the mandate will come out and they will follow it. But if they don't, we will be guided by the Attorney General, who will explain to us what we need to do, because that is the chief law enforcement agent in the state of New Jersey. So we cannot supersede him or her. Thank you.
La respuesta fue que, como se llama, que la policía no puede sobrepasar sobre la ley federal, aunque el Estado haya pasado una ley, primero se tiene que adherir a lo que la ley federal dice, y ya en tal caso, si es que esa es la ley, ya en su momento la ley estatal lo pasará.
Hi, Jane.
My question is whether the city is prepared to put together a Know Your Rights package in Spanish and English to put on your website. You've got a lot of folks here who have compiled vetted materials that are bilingual that can be put there. That's my first question, if the mayor and the city council are prepared to do that. And second is whether you're prepared for all municipal employees to undergo the Know Your Rights training that we've got just a taste of this evening.
La pregunta fue si es que la municipalidad está preparada de poner un paquete en inglés y en español en su página de web para que se conozcan sus derechos, y si es que los trabajadores de la municipalidad están preparados de tomar el training para conocer sus derechos.
The city provides training in a plethora of different areas, and we are always open to any group, any organization that is willing to come to the city and provide training to the community or to employees. And your other question, the first part, I believe that there is information from the state pertaining to Know Your Rights, and we could simply put a link to that. And if any of the attorneys have information that you can share regarding that, please do.
Lo que dijo Fernando fue que la municipalidad ya prepara, está dando trainings sobre esto para que se conozcan sus derechos. También ya el Estado tiene un enlace para que se conozcan sus derechos y se puede poner el link de eso en
First of all, thank you, Mayor, for being here today, for making this gather together happen. We're supposed to have one more close to the Florence Street and all that way people can come here. And second of all, for everyone here, let me say this. La abogada Ingrid Echeverría es una persona que siempre ha estado colaborando con nuestra comunidad. Es una persona que siempre ha estado ahí en todos los consulados, ayudando a la comunidad nuestra, informándonos y ayudando a sacar nuestra gente de la cárcel. La abogada hoy está aquí también voluntarizando el tiempo de ella para informar. So let me say this. The lawyer, Ingrid Echeverría, is a person that has given a lot to the community and whole. Not just Springfield, but all over the state of New Jersey. She has sacrificed her time and her family for being with us and to fight for us. I know and I say that I witnessed the kind of lawyer that she is and the kind of person that she is. If she's working with the mayor and tonight activity is because she wanted to do it from the bottom of her heart to help this community. The mayor has done nothing wrong but help us to do this happen. About immigration being Springfield, yes. Immigration is in Springfield. Immigration can be close to my office. I teach people to become citizens. And I'm not agree with the lawyer, I'm sorry, Colombian lawyer, because you should carry your driving license and probably your passport card with you. No matter what, if you're citizen or not citizen, you should have identification card with you. And anytime as an organization needs something, you should have the lawyers to be the one to guide you. Because when immigration stop you, you should not fight with immigration, you should not be invited to immigration, because then you're going to be hurt. So Mayor, thank you for giving us tonight the opportunity to our community. Thank you for the city council to be here with us, because that means that they care about us. That means that they care about their community, and they know that we have a lot of Hispanics that are citizens and have voted for them. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you to the director of the police department for making this happen. And thank you for being there when the young people came from the high school. I'm proud of them. They walk Springfield from the street watching The D-Day demonstration, very good, no problems. Thank you for the police department for being there, the city council and the mayor for his work and the administration his work. So for everyone, para todos los jóvenes que hicieron la demostración, los felicito. Fue muy bien, no hubo problemas, la policía ayudó, el alcalde estuvo presente y toda la gente nos ayudó. Y estoy muy orgullosa de ellos por haberlo hecho.
It's a good start. Es un buen comienzo.
I don't want my words to be misconstrued. Maybe I misspoke. I didn't notice it. I just want to make sure that what I'm saying is you guys understand that. I'm not saying that if you're a citizen, you should not carry your passport or anything that identifies you as a U.S. citizen. I'm saying that as a personal choice that you should discuss with your attorney. There are legal strategies and community strategies. That's all. It's your choice. If you want to carry it, you can carry it. But by law, you do not have to carry it. That's it. Period.
Lo que personas quería aclarar era de que por ley es necesario llevar los documentos, pero es una elección personal. Si es que uno quiere llevar esos documentos en la mano, por ley no se necesita, pero la elección es personal que se debería consultar con su abogado.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ángel, vengo desde Nuevo Estado y estado por esta área. Mi pregunta es dos cositas. ¿Cómo decir a los latinos de defenderse de los abogados fantasmas? Porque he estado visitando la comunidad y ellos siempre me preguntan, dicen que no, que ellos van a los contadores y todo eso, entonces ofrecen ese servicio. Otra pregunta ¿es verdad que hay los cazarrecompensas? Porque también la gente dice, no, que aquí en el área hay cazarrecompensas.
So, well, the first question was how would the Latin community identify phantom lawyers? And the second, I'm not sure if I
Bounty hunters.
the second question is how would you identify bounty hunters?
Casa recompensa. Yeah,
So the first question is how would the Latin community identify phantom lawyers? And the second one is how would they identify if they're bounty hunters?
Well, I don't have the answer to either one of those questions. I don't know if anyone does.
Well, I think that if you want to make sure that this is an attorney with a license, you can just look up in the bar, right? And, each state has a bar association and check the name of that particular person to check to make sure that they're an attorney. Not only that they're a licensed attorney, but they're in good standing, okay? And with regards to the question about, some people going to notarios or form preparers, in the United States, in order to practice law, you have to have a license. We know that. But in some Latin American countries, notarios are like lawyers too, so people may get confused. And unfortunately, people get, taking advantage. Sometimes, people filling out forms. And nowadays, people who have gone to form preparers, people who prepare forms, these clients are suffering big time before the immigration court because someone who fills out forms only and they don't know the law, they don't know what factors they have to prove, they're getting pre-terminated. Remember I mentioned that before? The judge is going to pre-terminate that case even in cases where the client had a good case that they could have won, but because they went to someone to just fill out paperwork, now they're going to suffer the consequences, unfortunately.
Lo que dijo la abogada fue uno que uno puede chequear los credenciales del abogado con la barra, no solo si es que es legalmente un abogado, sino también si está en buenas condiciones. También, desafortunadamente, cuando llenan los documentos con un notario, dicen en bastantes comunidades latinas, ellos confunden los notarios porque en su país los notarios también son como abogados, pero acá eso no es verdad. Ellos tienen que, para poder practicar ley, tienen que tener la licencia de la ley y eso sería si que tienen los credenciales activos con el State Bar.
Y las personas que han sido asistidas por personas que llenan formularios, lamentablemente ahora están sufriendo las consecuencias en la Corte de Inmigración, porque por lo general la persona no sabe la ley, cuando solamente es un preparador de formulario, no sabe la ley necesariamente qué factores tiene que comprobar, y esos casos lo están predeterminando, los jueces están predeterminando esos casos, entonces a esas personas le van a dar una orden de deportación, porque si en la cara del documento no está alegando todos los factores legales que debe de alegar, el juez está predeterminando esos casos. Por eso van a sufrir las consecuencias personas que han ido a notarios o a preparadores de formularios a que les llenen sus casos, lamentablemente.
I think something that's become really clear tonight is that the school system is very connected with the parent community. Looking for Lori. There's a mirror where she works. I do. They have a wonderful way of communicating out information. They're doing Know Your Rights training. They're doing a lot of stuff. But there is a huge immigrant population that has no kids in the school system who are completely out of the loop. And I think you're hearing the concerns of the community, and there's an outcry. People are afraid to go out of their homes in Plainfield. I'm part of the rapid response team. We are connected to the Dyer agency, Dyer hotline, and we respond to calls to the hotline to verify, to go on site. For example, yesterday, a car that was abandoned in front of, on West 4th and McDowell, from 2 people being apprehended. And this is happening all the time. The community is afraid to go to ESL classes. They are afraid to go to restaurants. They're afraid to go to the supermarket. You see very pathetic posts on social media at night. Is the Supremo supermarket safe right now? Has anyone been there in the last hour? Is it safe to go out? People are hunkered down, afraid to go out. The community is crying out for the city to be much more involved in a lot of services that will help the community know their rights, get connected with what's the word I'm looking for? Lawyers who are not charlatans, all sorts of things that the city has the ability to connect them with. We can't assume that everyone has a kid in the school system. They're doing a fantastic job. But we have a lot of folks who have nothing to do with that. And the community is afraid, the businesses are suffering. It's just a terrible atmosphere. It's a terrible atmosphere. And I'm hoping that there are still council people here. I don't know if they're all still here tonight. I know, I don't know. Carrie left here, and the mayor. Yeah, we're a welcoming city. I understand that, but there's, I think, much more that Plainfield could step up to offer the assistance, because this is a sad, sad time in my hometown.
Well, certainly we have this community meeting here this evening. What does what you are suggesting look like? What are your suggestions for the city?
Well, I made a couple of them when I got up before. I'll repeat them.
Please do.
Okay. One would be to put a link on your website and on your social media with materials that are written materials that have been vetted for Know Your Rights, perhaps offering some clinics, some legal clinics. I would be very happy if the city would publicize the Dyer hotline phone number, which covers this part of New Jersey. I would also hope that the police, now that we have a non-emergency number being offered, so that when we get called out and we find vehicles that are there, instead of them just being put on Facebook, hey, does anybody know whose vehicle this is that was left abandoned before it gets towed, that we had someone we could call at the police department. Seems like more than once a year. Lydia?
Yeah, I'm also happy to share some too. I think there are some opportunities that cities can explore. I think three of the things that we're thinking about in the cities in which we organize is the police director earlier mentioned the Immigrant Trust Directive. What was signed today was a codification of that law. It does not address due process violations that folks have experienced and sort of grounded in the wisdom of the last 7 years. But the ITD is the floor, not the ceiling, right? So cities can take it a step further and say that in the city of Plainfield or the city of Don, it is warrant or bust, right? So cities can explore that, and that's a way that we can make we can sort of strengthen the relationship, right? It goes further than what we have. The second is there's opportunities for cities to do much more robust like small business information, right? Like obviously one-on-one KYR, super important. You can sort of commission out to a city to do small business KYR organizing. It allows you to reach a larger swath of people much further out, much at a grander scale in a higher return. And then I think the third thing, though, right, like, folks are struggling with budget constraints is, creating funds for folks that have been impacted by family separation, right? And I think, we spend a lot of time talking about the sort of the direct impact of family separation, but oftentimes we forget about the fact that the economic consequence, immediate consequence of family detention, right? Like many people have lost a breadwinner, or it was a single parent household, and so they can't pay the rent now. Because of ICE enforcement, employers are much more abusive or much more negligent in the workplace, and so we can be doing the work of exploring not just know your rights trainings, but like, what is a temp worker bill of rights? What is paid sick? What is expanded access to driver's licenses, right? Encouraging people in perhaps a more neutral space of like, look at the things we do have and to have it be a place where people convene so that people explore more. Anyway, so those are just sort of like three off the top, right? Strengthening the Immigrant Trust Directive at the local level. Yes, a codification passed, we can do more at the city level. Creating a fund for folks impacted by separation. And then lastly, sort of doing a much more expansive know your rights program for small businesses, which would go further than typical like patronage sign. It would also include like how do you prepare for like an I-9 audit.
You mentioned something about driver's license. Lydia, can you repeat that?
Yeah. So over the this is obviously an incredibly difficult time, and just like living under a fascist regime. And in the state of New Jersey, we have been able to win some pretty significant pro-immigrant victories, which includes expanded access to driver's licenses, expanded access to financial aid, some of the strongest wage step protections in the entire country. And so, in the state of New Jersey, all people, regardless of immigration status, are able to apply for a driver's license, and it's a valid form of identification. And so there are, I think, it is so important that we are reminding people of the rights that they do have, right? Like you accrue an hour of paid sick for every 30 hours worked, doesn't matter if you're a public or private employee. These are wonderful ways to sort of help take the steam out of a very, very intense moment, bring people to a shared space, walking away with some know your rights information, and then able to sort of engage in a more difficult conversation about what does it feel like to live under such intense sadness and anxiety. So anyway, just there's a whole gamut of very pro-immigrant legislation that we have, and so definitely an opportunity to create trainings based on that, and then follow it up with a do you know what your rights are when interacting with ICE?
So it is believed that the
fact that undocumented people can get driver's license, that same information was used or is being used by ICE to target individuals. How true is that?
So it's a great question. So back in 2019, when the driver's legislation was initially passed, there was language that was written by advocates and attorneys to make sure that that information could not be shared. What came to light, and many other folks, similarly heard the news that in November of 2025, it did come to light that that loophole had, some loophole had been found. And ICE was, the New Jersey Department of Motor Vehicles was inadvertently sharing that data with ICE. Today, as some of you may have heard, there was legislation that passed on the floor called the Privacy Protection Act, which closes that loophole once and for all to say that the NPC can no longer share that data. But yes, significant harm was caused as a result of inadvertent or not, a lack of attention to detail. Ultimately, that being said, it is important that we share with folks that they do have access to a driver's license. It is important that we share history like this, so people, to Brian's point, sort of a reiteration over the course of the night, is that people ultimately make that decision for themselves, but it does allow people, to drive, to access better work, to access better wages, to get their family to hospital and school. But yes, the hope is that the legislation that passed on the floor today will be signed into law and will close that loophole.
We'll take two more questions and then we will close and give people in the audience an opportunity, if they so choose, to interact with any of the people on the panel if you have some specific or personal questions that you would like to ask. So the last two questions, one from the right and one from the left.
One on the left or the right? One on the left.
It's up to you. Where you stand depends on where you sit.
So first I'd like to thank this city for being the second one, to sign a resolution asking for Trenton to pass the Immigrant Trust Act, or it was different name then. And Bill Murphy unfortunately didn't do what he had to do, so that's why we are in this situation. Had they done what you had asked them as a council, we would not have to deal with this nonsense of transfer information. So you did this already a long time ago. The state government didn't do what they had to do, so that's why we are here. So it would be nice for you to push again the state to do the right thing, because right now it's just passed in one house, has to go to the other, and the governor has to sign it. So if she were to do that, we will be okay with this issue, particularly this issue. Our organization is more than willing to help facilitate training within the town, the employees, if you want to do that. And we can see how we can do that. And I'm sure we can partner with Make the Road, which we've been working together for 20-something years, and we can make that happen. So
that's free of charge, correct?
Sorry?
That's free of charge.
We never charge the town anything, right? We never charge the town anything. We don't charge.
Exactly.
Okay? We're not a profit, we don't charge. But I think it's important to clarify something else that's out there that I heard the comment more than once, that people can get their citizenship if they just go to a specific place and get it. And I'd like to clarify how that is, because it's my understanding that people are undocumented, like I was myself for some time, not because we want to be undocumented, but there is no way to become documented. And the vast majority don't have a path to citizenship. If I'm correct on that, I suggest that the only way to do that is to go to Washington, D.C., which we can do now again in November.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
One day now, go there, right? We got to talk to the Congress people, Senate, to change the law. So I just want a clarification. If there is an easy path to citizenship, then I'm missing some folks who are suggesting, or if there isn't.
I'll take this one. Okay, lawyers? Can I hear it?
I can take that question. So to answer it directly, yes, if you are undocumented, the paths are not vast or wide. I mean, that's pretty common knowledge, but there are pathways. I totally agree with you 100% that we do need to, lobby as best you can to reform, really, with immigration. It really hasn't been comprehensive reform as long as we all remember, right? The last amnesty that we're really talking about is, 2001, right? With, the 245 Act, White Act. But we've been sitting for 25 years now. I know that the Dignity Act has been mentioned, and maybe after this really horrific period kind of subsides, maybe we'll get some real reform here. But I would say that still Congress has left options, right? Maybe not big options, but they have left some options for people without documents to legalize, in the form of humanitarian visas, right? If you've been a victim of a crime, if you've been a victim of domestic violence, there's a whole section for people who have relatives that have qualified, immediate family members that have special needs, for example, or special situations that really depend on your support. So these types of reliefs are out there. It's at least worth it to get a consultation and kind of figure out where you stand.
Last question.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council, all of the city officials, the people who came out tonight to speak to the community. Thank you. I also like to say when one community or residents are under attack, we all are under attack. And that's why I think it's important for everyone to come out and to speak out on this issue. I want to ask a question. Can Plainfield be designated as a sanctuary city? That's the question that I have. And I also want to compliment the school system who did not discipline the students, as North Plainfield did. Yes, Plainfield school system should be a clap for that. I want to, because that's the way you teach young people to get involved, to stay involved and be active. And I also want to say, Saturday, March 28th, we're asking everyone to come out. We're here from Indivisible, but there are a lot of organizations that are participating. Our goal is to get over 10 million people, and we will have over 10 million people out on the streets. There are over 3,000 rallies that have been organized around the country. Here in the Plainfield area, we will be having a rally, and we hope that everyone will come out and participate. Please join us around 12 o'clock p.m. To make your voices heard. We say no kings, no ICE, and no wars. So we hope that everyone will join us on Saturday. And again, thank you for putting a spotlight on the issue, answering people's questions. We know that sometimes it's easy, you're in the heat of the moment, but to do something is important. And I think that as showing an example to young people, that's extremely important. And to also say to all members of the community, remember the saying they had during World War II. They'll come for me in the morning, and they'll come for you at night. So people who think that their community or people are not under attack now, you will be under this fascist regime if we don't unite together to fight it. Thank you.
So on that note, Sister Vincent, I received a text message asking me about the No Kings March. Can you tell people where it would be, where people can gather, any one or multiple locations nearby?
Yes, we will be, North Plainfield, right out across from where Costco is.
West End Avenue.
West End Avenue, we will be there. Again, we encourage everybody to come out. We also encourage, people who want to make signs and, need maybe materials. Again, we have an event on Friday, so we, again, are encouraging everybody. Don't be afraid, come out, let your voices be heard. You feel good about doing it, because doing something and knowing that you're going to be part of people, not only around the country, but around the world who are coming out. As I said, there are over 3,000 events that are already planned. And you're going to feel good at being one of the 10 million plus that'll be out there saying, again, no ICE, no kings, and no wars.
12 noon.
12 noon.
12 noon.
You heard it, folks. 12 noon, West End Avenue and 22. This coming Saturday.
Nomás para dejar saber en español, el sábado, marzo 28 a las 12 de la tarde, en la calle de West End Avenue, al frente de Costco, a la ruta 22, va a ser la marcha de los Reyes, no ICE, no caballos.
Now, I want to take this opportunity to thank all the panelists. I want it to be known they were not paid by me or by the city or by anyone, in spite of the implied misinformation. They were not paid, they are volunteers who wanted to do a good community deed. And that's why they are here to provide information that will be helpful to those of you who were able to be present there, and for you to take that back to as many people as you possibly can. So this wasn't the first of these, and it will not be the last. And to anyone in the audience who wants to volunteer to provide training of any kind, please contact my office. Please contact Director Chef Brown, who is the Director of Community Development. Please contact the Business Administrator, who's sitting in the front row. Reach out to us. We will gladly partner with you to provide as many training sessions as we can, so as to provide the community with as much information as we possibly can.
Con todo lo demás, pueden contactar la oficina del alcalde, la oficina del director de salud y servicios sociales o la administradora para poder informarnos de la información y poderlas proveer a todos.
And I'll give each one of the panelists a minute to give some parting words. Starting from my right. If there's any parting word that you would like to leave.
Hello, I don't have the parting words except for what I'm reiterating, that you should consult with an attorney about what is your legal and community strategy, and a really important thing is to learn how to assert your rights and to document interactions.
I want to thank the mayor for inviting me out here. It's very eye-opening for me to be just a community meeting and just hearing all the concerns of the community. I live in a bubble, mostly working on just helping my clients get legalized, any kind of immigration pathways. But I think we'll get through this as long as we all stay strong and support each other.
I think just what an important time to organize. Like, it's the most important time when it's the worst of times. And Make Road, New Jersey started off with just 3 young women who were canvassing in the city of Elizabeth 11 years ago, and really grew because we were following the courage of our neighbors. But I think, it's oftentimes we feel pressed to sort of wait for the right moment, or wait for the right crew, or wait for the right department. But it really is on us to organize each other to grow and to make sure that we're centering people all the time.
Just would like to thank Mayor Matt for this event, and I'm always here to help them. This is our second. The first one was together with the clergies and different pastors, and this is more like community, and this is Ray, and we'd like just to thank him to continue doing this information for our community.
I'd like to thank the mayor as well and his council personnel, as well as all of you who showed up today, because if it wasn't for you, this would not have been a success. So I want to thank everyone in the audience for being present. I know it's a late day after work, and I really appreciate your presence. And my last message is that, hey, there is hope. We're going through very difficult times right now. But it is such a great feeling to win a case, and I keep winning those cases because I believe in my people, because I believe that I will make a difference and positive impacts in someone's life. So let's keep fighting, let's keep the fight, let's stay present to that organization across New Jersey that we're gonna have. By just being present, you're just saying, I don't agree with this, no kings, right? So let's stay present to that, and let's keep hope. There's always hope, all right? Thank you.
So I want to thank all the panelists. They have been absolutely amazing. And my takeaway, because I think it's important that we talk about what my takeaway is. No institution can do this alone. No organization can do this alone. No one person can do it alone. And so what we saw tonight was what we really wanted to see. People come together, we may not always agree. We may not always say what we want to hear. But at the end of the day, it's how do we protect those who need protection, and that's what our responsibility is. And so I want to thank everybody again, and I'm excited with this panel. I know that I'm permanently connected to everyone here. And of course, now that we're old, we can ask questions or take some time. The mayor gave me a new assignment. Does anyone need a card? You have them up here at the table to know your rights and what you need to do if you encounter ICE. It's not just ICE.
In the back for the community, I'm sorry, in the back, they're giving free food and clothing and books for anybody that needs it. We thank Mr. Joy for that, to give that to the community. Thank you. If you want to stop by, they got a lot of free stuff for the community. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that Giovanna Villagres is here with the table in the back, and also Mr. Torres and Francisco Torres is in the back with some important information. So just stop by their table before you guys head home. Okay, thank you.